Benjamin Franklin, born January 17th, 1706. He was an author, printer, theorist, politician. He invented a million things. He had about 20 pseudonyms. There are tons of weird stories involving Ben Franklin. That's what we're talking about today. It's Laughs from the Past. All right, welcome back to Laughs from the Past. Last weekend we told a story about Teddy Roosevelt getting shot while giving a speech. Dove into some stuff there. We're going even further back in time, and we're going to talk about Benjamin Franklin. And I don't have one story that we're going to talk about. We're going to kind of do a couple stories and inventions and pseudonyms and just overall, Ben Franklin did so much shit. My name's Jimmy. This is Laughs from the Past. I'm going to tell Jake some history. And Jake, my co-host, is going to respond. First time you're hearing this.
First time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, so what are your initial thoughts about Ben Franklin?
First place my brain jumped was because you're talking about Ben Franklin doing everything. And like last episode, we talked about Teddy Roosevelt, and he did so much. There wasn't a lot of one and dones back in the day. There wasn't like, yo, I created whipped cream. I got some money. I'm calling it. Like, it was kind of like you just kept the ball rolling until you died. There was no stop.
Yeah. And I think there was...
Retirement wasn't really a thing.
Well, I think like you said last episode, the general public, and we're sorry if you're from the 1700s, but was dumb.
Right.
So if you were blessed with knowledge, you better not waste it.
Yeah, that's true. And again, it comes back to the boredom factor.
I mean, Ben Franklin did so much that when I read it, I'm like, how do you have time?
Right.
What do you want to go first? Funny one? Interesting one?
Did he even watch the new Netflix series of Queer Eye? No, probably not.
Probably could have used it on himself.
Yeah.
Volunteered.
That'd be kind of great. I'd watch that show.
Queer Eye for dead
historical figures.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do the first story I want to do about him, because this I read this, I thought it could be its own episode, but then I thought, nah, it's not the case. Is an invention, a musical invention he created called the harmonica.
What, is there supposed to be an H in front or no?
No, there's no H. That's why it's the harmonica.
Okay.
The glass harmonica. Okay, so this invention, it's a musical invention. Right off the bat, being an inventor is wild.
Right.
But
and that's the other thing that's getting me. Like, and we'll see where this harmonica story goes, but I feel like Ben Franklin could get away with anything at this point. Like, oh yeah, I just made up the harmonica. It's an instrument when you blow into your friend's asshole. And they'd be like, oh wow, Ben Franklin, new instrument.
No, but this is there are situations like that. Like, he invented the rocking chair. And it's like, dude, right. Ben Franklin didn't invent the rocking chair. Some farmer in Podunk, Indiana was like, hey, I want to make my chair rock. So he did it. And no one knew about it. And his neighbors were like, hey, can I have one of those? And I'm like, yeah. And then another farmer in Maine had the same exact thought. It was like, so he did it. You know what I mean? And then Ben Franklin just did it, and on a mass level, because everyone knew who he was. But like, Ben Franklin shouldn't get credit for inventing the rocking chair.
But no one know where you get caught up in that. What if he did, though?
like that had to be something everyone was thinking about across the globe. Like, I wish this chair rocked.
I don't know, man. That's the thing about the 1700s.
Yeah. This invention...
Until I was introduced to a rocking chair, I was never sitting in a chair like, wow, I wish this bad boy had some rock to it.
I was birthed on a rocking chair.
That can't be right.
It's not, but I tell people that a lot.
All right.
That's like
cool.
That's like a thing I've said more than once, so that's cool.
All right.
All right. So the harmonica, the glass harmonica. Ben Franklin goes to a musical performance, a play, right? Let me see if he attended a concert that was given on wine glasses. So like you said, people are bored and there's not much talent.
Right.
So he's going to a concert, which is really like a curbside act because a guy's just playing wine glasses.
I
Imagine.
think isn't that still like a Miss America thing? I feel like I've seen that recently.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. That's a talent show, not a concert.
Right.
Like, come watch me play. Watch me rub these glasses for 40 minutes. This is my concert. That's tough.
Times are different.
Anyway, Ben Franklin thought it was the sweetest sound he had ever heard, but he wanted to hear more harmonies with this melody. He wanted more. So you know what he did? So think about when you rub the top of a wine glass, right? And the bigger the wine glass, the different sounds, the different amount of water in it. So he took, say you take a wine glass and you stack it into wine glasses, right? And you just, it's like a big wine glass and then a little one and then little like Chinese dolls stacked all the way up. Now take that stack, turn it sideways, and put it on a rotating spike like a pig roast. That's the harmonica.
Okay.
So how you play it is you have these glasses that are rotating, and how you play it is you dip your hands in water, and then you just rub the edges of each glass, and you go up and down, so you can slide your hands up and down the wine glasses.
Sure.
That's how he invented the harmonica. Harmonica. Actually, you know what I should do? You won't be able to hear this. Maybe you will. Okay, so it's weird because it's not strings, it's not percussion. It sounds like angels crying. Half of that sound to me is terrible, and then half of it I understand the beauty of it.
Yeah, it feels like transition scene music in like a serious movie.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot on the character's mind. Yeah, I mean 1700s. That noise is probably pretty wild.
yeah. So it was an instant success. Marie Antoinette took lessons on it. The famous hypnotist used it to put his patients into a deeper trance. Mozart, Beethoven, they composed music for it right away. Like everyone wanted, give me a piece of this Franklin harmonica.
That was hot. That was Cardi B.
Yeah. And now it's gone. No one plays it. Want to know why?
I had an interesting take, which may be taken away from this, so I'll let you go. Why?
By the mid-1800s, it suddenly lost its popularity and gradually vanished because superstitions ran wild. Harmonicas were said to drive performers mad and evoke spirits of the dead because of its eerie and haunting sound.
Now we're talking.
I think Germany outlawed it. There was warnings, if you're not mad yet, you will be if you play this. So that's where we talk about the general public just dumb. Like if we went back in time, that would be frustrating. Oh, we can't play this instrument because it makes you crazy. Like, no.
And just imagine it though. Like Germany just banned this because it's been taking people's souls and driving them crazy. If you hear that, it's kind of like, all right, I don't think I'm playing the harmonica anymore.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you go to I don't even know, what would you call it if people were holding like a 1700s bash, like a 1700s Renaissance fair, or
like a theme party?
Like that episode of Conan where they do the old-timey baseball.
Renaissance fair, theme party, I don't know.
Yeah, whenever they do that for 1700s or probably even early 1800s, there's a total cool guy playing the harmonica. And they're like, oh, that's pretty unique. What's with the harmonica? And he's like, well, actually, Ben Franklin invented this. And it got banned because it used to take people's souls. And then he gives you like a creepy wink. And then you're like, I got to leave this 1700s party.
It's like, I was walking through Philadelphia the other day, and there was a guy that was like, a 1700, ask me about rocks in the 1700s or whatever. I was like, dude, I don't want to ask you. I'd love to ask a tour guide that's just being a 2018 tour guide and talking to me like, oh, yeah, back in the day, this was this. Then ask like, yes, this is blah, blah, blah.
Like, I've got the 1700s Renaissance Fair fun event in my head and picturing, And it's one of those things you're like, okay, this is weird. But if people like this enough that they actually do this, you're like, you know what, cool. I'm happy that you like that. We can enjoy it for an hour. This is a part of your life. But the guy playing the harmonica is the guy that hits on your girlfriend right in front of you.
Oh, yeah. He's like a magician, man. They all think they're like having a trick.
Ben Franklin invented this harmonica, and I'd like to invent our love together. And you'd be like, what'd you just say?
Yeah.
To us?
If you play the harmonica, you have no soul.
Yeah.
Germany made it true. All right. Let's go on to his now that's a little bit of Benjamin Franklin the inventor.
Right.
Benjamin Franklin the troll.
Okay.
We already did Lincoln trolling people in the newspapers, episode 5 or whatever that was. So every year, Benjamin Franklin wrote The Poor Richard, an almanac. Like every year he wrote this. Like, Ben, what are you doing? Why? And he wrote it under the pseudonym Richard Saunders. So that's why it was Poor Richard. Famous lines: fish and visitors smell in 3 days. Early to bed, early to rise. 3 may keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. Those are all words of wisdom, courtesy of Richard Saunders, author of Poor Richard's Almanac, which is, back in the olden days, people read almanacs more than any kind of secular book, and Poor Richard's Almanac was the best of the best. It was Ben Franklin's. I don't even really get it. Just like a book of advice every year he put out.
I think this is like the first memes.
Kind of, yes. Yeah,
basically.
Basically, yeah.
Oh my God! Look at Poor Richard this year. If the guest stays for 3 days, that's like fish going bad because you don't want them in your house anymore.
Yeah, they all laugh about it.
Oh.
The Balding Writer was the brains behind the annual pamphlet, a book that was the Weather Channel meets Reader's Digest. The almanac served as a calendar, let readers know when the sun was going down and going to rise, gave advice to farmers, and was full of entertaining stories and pithy sayings. I don't know that word. However, Poor Richard's Almanac wasn't the only almanac in the colonies. Another popular pamphlet was An American Almanac by Titan Leeds. Poor Titan Leeds going up against Benjamin Franklin.
I don't know. He's getting some secondary sales just because people are like, "Whoa, I love almanacs."
Oh yeah. Well,
I gotta get this one.
Well, despite his epic name, Leeds was a lousy writer. Just take a look at this horrible poem. Here's a quote from it: out of the frying into the fire, and he that's not true must be a liar.
But you know what? If Ben Franklin says that, it's on like T-shirts nowadays.
I don't know, man. That's not as easy to understand as fish and visitors smell in 3 days.
Right.
All right. The rest of the... So Franklin decided to take him out troll style, poking fun at the American Almanac's fondness for astrology. Poor Richard's made a prediction of its own, claiming that on October 7th, 1733, 3:29 p.m., at the very instant of the conjunction of the Sun and Mercury, Titan Leeds would kick the bucket.
Oh, boy.
So Ben Franklin's like, hey, you know that other almanac you guys read? That guy's going to die. Astrology says it. And people were so dumb back then. They were like, oh, fuck.
See, this worries me because people are also still crazy back then and there's nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see some bored guy being like, "Oh, yo, I'll actually kill him right at that time." So the almanac's true.
Imagine if Ben Franklin set up his death.
Right?
All right, so he didn't die. And when he was so upset, he was so angry, he attacked Franklin, calling him, also, let's pause,
God.
Titan Leeds was sitting there.
Yes, expecting death.
Expecting to die.
Yes.
And when he didn't die, he was like, oh, what an idiot. He was wrong.
Just brooding.
Yeah.
I was prepared for death.
He angrily attacked Franklin, calling him a fool and a liar. But Poor Richard wasn't done trolling yet. In his next pamphlet, Franklin claimed there was no way a gentleman like Leeds would use such hard language, which meant his rival must in fact died on October 17th, and someone was impersonating the late Mr. Leeds now.
Wow. Yeah, that's good trolling.
I mean, you can't come back from that because if you're
No.
Leeds, Ben Franklin has him in a corner. Like what? All you can do is cry and yell, "It is me! It is me!" And then Ben Franklin just continuously says, "Sounds like what an imposter would say."
That's exactly what not you would say.
Yeah. So Ben Franklin, master troll.
Yeah, that's tough.
All right, so this back and forth went on for a long time, and the hoax drove up the sales of Poor Richard's Almanac. Nevertheless, all good pranks must come to an end, and Titan Leeds finally did pass away in 1738. How do you think Franklin handled that?
Dead man. I don't know. I think you kind of got to go firm handshake there. Not the act, not literally, but just like, oh,
He was a good adversary.
Sorry to see Titan go.
It was fun, good adversary. We had our laughs.
It's the alpha male polite way out. Like, oh, yeah, he was. It was fun yeah. There's a backhanded compliment at the end that it's like, oh, he was an interesting fellow when he was still relevant. Rest in peace. And it's like, oh, dagger.
Do you want to know how Benjamin Franklin handled it?
What did he say?
He declared the last laugh and said, "It seems the imposter has kicked the bucket now too."
Ooh.
Like,
Ooh.
that's Ben.
Ben.
That's what happens when you write under a pseudonym. Ben Franklin's is very easy. That wasn't me. That was Richard Saunders. It's a character
Right.
play.
Burner account.
Burner account. Yeah. Oh, dude.
The original burner.
That's what we're going to get into next. Do you know how many burner accounts Ben Franklin had? How many pseudonyms he had? It's insane. Let me find it. He had so many. You ready? Let's go into some of his pseudonyms now. Richard Saunders, that's who we just talked about, right? He wrote the Almanac. Silence Dogood. You recognize that name if you've ever seen National Treasure. The Silence Dogood letters. When he was 16 years old, he desperately wanted to write for his brother James' newspaper, the New England Current. But James was something of a bully and wouldn't allow it. So Ben contributed to the paper as a middle-aged widow named Silence Dogood. Like, what a weird 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Older brother, let me write for your newspaper. Please, please, please. I really want to write for your newspaper. No, you can't. Okay, I'll show you. 60-year-old widow?
Yeah.
Middle-aged widow Silence Dogood, whose witty and satirical letters covered a range of topics from courtship to education. A total of 15 Dogood letters were published, resulting in the amusement of the current readers. Several marriage proposals for the pretend Mrs. Dogood and ultimately arise out of the James Franklin, his brother. Imagine if you proposed to 16-year-old Ben Franklin because of his character he played.
Try not to.
All right, another pseudonym, Anthony Afterwit. Mr. Afterwit. What do you think about that name?
Mr. Anthony Afterwit loved alliteration.
Well, Silence Dogood's a pretty good name. Afterwit wrote humorous letters and about married life that appeared in Benjamin Franklin's own Pennsylvania Gazette. Benjamin Franklin would rather write as a different character than hire another writer.
Yeah.
Mr. Franklin, can I write for your newspaper? What are you going to write about? Oh, I'm going to write marriage humorously. Oh, I can do that better than you. I'll just do it under a pseudonym. What's your name? Okay, I'll just use that, and I'll just write it. Thanks for the idea, though. That's how good it...
Was Ben Franklin a creep? That's all that's going through my mind right now.
Probably.
Feel like the pseudonyms are tied to that.
There's a letter of advice he wrote that, like, you should marry older women. He was into older women.
Cool, Ben.
All right, let's go on. There's a lot more pseudonyms. What about this name? Polly Baker.
Was Polly a male's name back then?
I think it's a parrot. Maybe this was a parrot he was pretending to be. No,
I
think it's
Franklin
a woman.
Was pretending to be a parrot.
Franklin used to examine colonial society's unequal treatment of women.
He's catfishing people.
Polly was pretend punished by society for having pretend children out of pretend wedlock, while the fathers of the pretend children went pretend unpunished. I don't know why this writer put pretend so much. So he basically said like, hey, I'm a woman. I just got punished for having children out of wedlock, and the father of my children isn't punished at all. And he was doing like a social experiment. The most bored man on earth.
Yeah. Too much going on.
We're not even. We got 4 more pseudonyms to go. Alice Addertongue.
I don't like the lady pseudonames, man. That's
Yeah, all of his pseudonyms are middle-aged women. I bet it was like a funny joke back then, but now it's like creepy.
well, and it also sounds like he was trying to make it more acceptable for women to have sex and birth out of wedlock.
Well, I mean, that was probably admirable. He didn't want women to get punished.
That's what you think.
You just think he just wanted to sleep with a lot of
You
women.
just wanted it to be more acceptable, yeah.
What about Celia Shortface?
Okay.
Celia Shortface was used to settle a dispute with his former employer who had stolen some of Franklin's publishing ideas. Shortface letters were published in the American Weekly Mercury. I mean, that's cheating, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting weird vibes from Ben Franklin.
There's something off, and that's I feel like when people talk about Ben Franklin, that's kind of how they depict it to you. And now I'm getting more of the picture.
What about this pseudonym? Busybody.
I mean, at least that sounds like a good fake pen name.
And it now like that is a term. Don't be such a busybody.
Yeah.
Do you know that that's where that comes from?
No.
Miss Body's letters were basically gossip stories about the local businessmen. So that's why if someone gossips a lot, don't be such a busybody. Ben Franklin was busybody, and he wrote a gossip column.
So don't be Ben Franklin.
Don't be Ben Franklin. He was a traveling fool. He invented a lot of stuff. He did play a huge part in America, so that's pretty cool.
Right.
He didn't believe in debt, and he wanted to make a society, like a club of debt-free people. Like he just wanted to hang around debt-free people because he thought that if you were free of debt, you were an easy spirit. You weren't dragged down by anything.
Sure, Ben.
He made up all the terms for electricity that we know, like battery, brushed, charged, conductor, and electrician, because he was the only one fucking around with electricity. Yeah, it's pretty.
Are there any cool movies on like the Declaration of Independence and stuff?
There is the miniseries John Adams.
Okay.
Which covers it pretty well. It was the HBO miniseries. First episode's really good. Gets a little boring, but it's still pretty good.
Because dude, think about like that moment in a movie where like everyone comes together. I'll start with like bad movies, but like Fast and Furious, like the first time they get the whole gang together, and you're like, wow, these are the roughest, toughest guys. Like, okay, yeah. I mean, now you can take planes and whatever you want and stuff. Like 1700s, where you got the gang together, and you're looking around the room, you're like, shit, Ben Franklin, bro.
Did you see Deadpool 2?
Is that John Quincy?
Did you see
what?
Deadpool 2?
No. Should I?
No, but there's that classic scene where he gets like the gang together, like
Right.
his crew, and they do the montage like, blah, she can do this, and blah, he can do this, blah, blah, blah. And then the very next scene is them all dying.
Nice.
So it's pretty funny.
Spoiler.
Yeah, man, there's not. I'm looking at movies, and yeah, you're right. We could really use like a writing the Declaration of Independence movie, like those initial meetings.
Peacock it a little bit.
Yeah. In 1972, there's a movie called 1776, but it was the version of a Broadway musical. That's not good. And then like Patriot comes up on the list, and like that's about the war. I want just the meetings and all that stuff, like the arguing. I mean, John Adams on HBO they cover all that, like Washington and Franklin roaming around the square, and each state had to.
There had to be hotheads involved. Like let's tell them to like fully SRDs, and people had to be like, okay, we'll tell them to back off, but let's not twist the knife.
Yeah, James Madison, he like wrote the letters, so he like had a lot to say and stuff like that. And then John Hancock, like he got asked to write it just because he had the best penmanship. Like what a great What a great skill John Hancock's penmanship led to his legacy.
Well, they've always gotten more credit through time, whether it's like third grade class, like whoever's writing it, they're getting more credit than they deserve. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, John Hancock got way more credit than he deserves.
Yeah.
He just got good handwriting, man. That's all.
Congrats.
Let's see if we can find one more story before we end this Ben Franklin episode. And there's so many stories that we can probably find another one. This is kind of crazy. He was like a storm chaser, like tornadoes. They thought tornadoes were water tunnels. They just thought it was water. They couldn't fathom anything else because people were dumb back in the day. They were freaking out, and Ben Franklin never seen one, but he'd heard about them. And from his hearings, he was like, "No, I think that's just wind. It's a wind tunnel blowing around."
Right.
So he never seen one, but he had all these theories about it until 1754. Him and his son were on their way to Maryland when they saw a whirlwind headed their direction. So they just like charged towards it on horseback. Everyone else ran away. They followed it because he wanted to see it. The whirl was not so swift, but that's a man on foot might have kept pace with it. So they wouldn't have been able to keep pace with it on foot. And eventually started noticing that the land spout, which is what they called them. They called them water spouts, and then he was like, no, it's a land spout. Sucking up leaves. Then he saw it was sucking up branches and trees, so they like retreated. But yeah, I mean, he's a crazy guy.
Tornado in Maryland?
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know, Ben.
Tornado in Maryland. I'm going to Google it. Wait, Newtown, Connecticut just had a tornado. So, yeah, they come.
I mean, like, yeah, it can happen, but it's very rare in the fact Ben Franklin was waiting somewhere with his horse.
Oh, a tornado in Maryland just happened. Okay, that's common. That happened in 2018, happened in 2017, happened in 2000. Yeah. So the last 2 years, there's been 2 tornadoes at least in Maryland.
Just saying, have you ever seen a tornado?
No. One time on like the Little League baseball field, I saw like the dirt spinning around by second base. That was pretty cool.
Right.
But hey, Ben Franklin saw one. He ran right to it.
Maybe.
Ben Franklin. I think he liked horse.
Is that where the creep stuff comes from?
Yeah. I think he liked parasaurs.
I just Googled some Ben Franklin and said the 10 most outrageous things Ben Franklin ever did.
Yep, that's what we're using as this. That's what I've been using. So I Googled Ben Franklin whores, and it says like Ben Franklin was the country's first fame whore. So maybe, they say he just wanted to be famous for everything. Of course, the dude acted like he invented the rocking chair when I guarantee you farmers across the colonies had made their own rocking chair.
Right.
And the kite, you think no one else ever threw something in the air on a string?
Tough to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he just had the name and the credit, so he got to put his name to a lot of things. Now it seems like we're coming off anti-Ben. I'm pro-Ben. I just think some things are weird.
Weird guy.
There's this whole letter where he writes about why you should marry up. And I was going to do that as saying like he wrote to this kid, and he was like, you should marry an older woman. And then he dashed out reasons why. But they're pretty misogynistic and sexist, so I was like, let's stay away from doing a whole episode on that.
Sure.
What I'm gonna do?
He was a big wino.
Oh, of course, man. The water was bad.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find like a picture of Ben Franklin smiling because maybe I put that on a shirt, but it's all fake, obviously.
The times.
Yep. Okay, that is the end of this show. Benjamin Franklin, cool name.
Strong name. 2 first names technically.
Yeah. His I went to Philadelphia recently and saw like where his like 3-story mansion was, and they said his grandkids just tore it down like right away.
Tough.
Sucks. All right, that's it. It's the end of Laughs from the Past. If you enjoyed, please go to the podcast app and leave a rating and a review. So thanks. Say bye, Jake.
Bye, Jake.
What are your last impressions of Ben Franklin? You seem perturbed by the man now.
I love him. He's a weirdo. He's I I mean, it's cool. Definitely had more brain power, but I don't know. It's almost like he hit a point where it could have been more focused. He was the way it's depicted. He was more of a fame chaser at a certain point than like improving society chaser.
My thoughts are like nowadays we kind of know this is going to be rude. The Zuckerbergs, Steve Jobs. Sure, these men are geniuses,
Right.
And like smart as fuck, but they're socially awkward people.
Right.
Where back in the day, Ben Franklin, like he was the Steve Jobs and the Zuckerberg, but he was also the Leonardo DiCaprio and
Right.
Derek Jeter. Like people like thought of him as the coolest, famous
Celebrity
guy, and it's like, no, man, he's probably like a socially awkward creep that's really smart at inventing things.
Yeah.
People, you're like you said, no one was a one-hit wonder. He had to be the playboy, the funny, the witty, the everything. When it should have just been, just do Facebook shit, Zuckerberg, and stay out of everything else. Which
Dude,
now
you know
they
what
do.
I think?
What?
I think Ben Franklin was a big like opposites guy with the people, like going beyond satire. But like, so now I'm thinking about the older women thing, and now I'm picturing a bunch of younger women coming up to him and being like, "Oh, well, I'll show you. Younger women are better than older women." And that was his game.
Reverse psychology?
Yeah.
Wow. It probably worked.
Well, take that, Ben Franklin.
Well, I think he wins in that situation.
Well, me and him have always been beefing.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week, next Tuesday. Laughs from the past. Thanks. Bye.